right, it's just 3 years of your life, and then after that, quid's in. And also, I'm assuming quid's in now because, you've got no mates.
Yeah, we didn't spend 20 quid on the microphone, mate. Ooh.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of No Idea Yet. Here with us this week, as always, is Alistair.
Hello there.
And Jonathan.
Hello.
Oh, went for a high-pitched one today, did you? I've decided to go a little bit different again, as I'm sure you know. I like to mix things up again with my topics, and this one is not a news article. It's not something I've heard about. It's not something I even know much about, because I don't know what it's going to be. I have a list here of countries, and I would like to have a number 1, 2, or 3 from both of you. I'm going to add those two numbers together, and the answer will be one of these countries on the list. Yes, I have made it so that there is no number 1 on the list, if that makes sense. Otherwise, you can't.
It's just thinking.
But what's number 1?
Well, what is number 1?
What's number 1, man?
It's just blank. It says list of countries. So
why don't you just get us to pick a number between 0 and... Okay.
Did you also?
We can just do it. Sorry.
whatever, man.
Did you also include? Did you just start from 2, or did you also not include the numbers you can't make by adding up?
I just didn't include the numbers you can't have by taking up. Anyway,
Nice.
point is,
Did you include 10? Did you include 25?
People
The
listening
theme
be
here
like, "Come on, what's the episode, man? Come on."
This is the longest
I
intro
haven't read the
we've ever
title
had.
yet.
yeah. The theme is Central Europe, because I realised I didn't know much about those countries, and I work with some of these guys from a mixture of countries, so it's good to learn a bit about them.
Gonna wow them
So-
the next time you see him.
I
Hey,
know
did
your
you know
ca- I know
that's
your capital.
country?
Yes. So, Johnny, can you give me a number 1, 2, or 3?
2.
Alistair, can you give me a number 1, 2, or 3?
A 1.
So, the answer is number 3. The country is Georgia.
Oh.
Do you know anything
Well, let's
about...
end the podcast, guys. We have a title for research.
Do either of you know where Georgia is?
Oh, Middle East.
Okay, I mean, I did say it's kind of like the
Is
theme.
it
Oh, you
Central,
said Central Europe.
Johnson?
I'm thinking. Do you just think Central Europe? You
I
just
guess
think
it's
like
Eastern
anywhere
Europe.
between
I mean,
China and the UK. Yeah, it's
That's-
like
that's true. I guess it's kind of this. Georgia would be classed as probably like Eastern Europe, right? Well, actually, you don't know because you don't know. Where it is.
no idea. I actually have no idea. In my head, it's because am I thinking Jordan? I think I'm thinking Jordan. Is that the Middle East?
Yeah, I'd say so.
I think
But then
the
again,
J
my
and the
geography is
G.
trash. Okay, well, Alistair, do you know?
I know
Anything about-
Georgia. I don't know Georgia.
Okay, do either of you have no? Because this is interesting, right? Because this is why it's going to be funny. Is that I'm going to ask you guys a few questions, and you've got to just, on pure feeling, tell me what you think. And then when we do a bit of research, you're going to realise
This is
that you had
definitely
no
not
idea.
the knowest idea of yet, because I think, yeah.
Okay,
But
Johnny,
yeah,
you
so
better not be
I
googling
mean,
anything.
No,
You're
I
not
literally-
allowed to Google.
Jordan
know
is in
nothing
the
about
Middle East. It's yeah. So that's why I was thinking Jordan, not Georgia.
Okay, so
Good save.
I'm going to ask you some questions, and then we're going to go away, and you're just going to find out how wrong you were. So, Alistair and Johnny, what language do they speak in Georgia?
Mississippi.
It's not a Georgian.
Okay. Wait, hang on. I
Um,
should write these down. I should write down what you think.
Because isn't it always the thing of like there's like was it protests or something happening in Jordan? It's something not Jordan. Georgia recently, and then everyone getting confused in America because they didn't realize that Georgia is also a country, not just a state.
Not a state. Yeah. Okay. Gone with question mark / Georgian. I like that. I also don't know this, by the way. Like I don't know. Guys, what would you say the predominant religion is in Georgia?
Orthodox Catholic.
Orthodox Catholic. Got anything else?
I'm going to get Islam.
Orthodox.
I mean, those are two pretty solid Christianity or Islam, really.
Yeah, pretty good guess. What kind of food do you reckon they have in Georgia?
Fish.
Stews. I'm just thinking Central Europe, and I've been to Poland, and that's about it. So I'm just thinking, I'm just going to think of when I went to Poland. I'm going to say stews.
I'm not 100% sure, but Georgia might be landlocked.
I think it is as well. I was going with fish as a joke there, but it's not going to come across well
There are
on this
lakes.
part of the...
There are lakes.
That's true. As long as someone remembered to put fish in them.
And
Right, that works. Okay, excellent.
rivers. Rivers. There we go.
Okay, give me a ballpark figure of how old do you reckon Georgia is as a country?
So this is a funny one as well, isn't it? Because that's like, how old is it? And when we mean that is just when did somebody draw lines around it? Really, it's not like
And
how
call,
long.
yeah, and call it
Pangea,
something.
you know. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any idea?
Let's say
I'm going to go like 80 years just because...
80. All right.
I'm gonna say 500. I mean, I want to say closer to Wowzers, to be honest, but I think for good measure 500.
I just
I'm
know
gonna-
lots of things happened to the map around the 40s, so I'm going with 80 years as a, you know...
True, but I reckon Georgia itself. I reckon there's something called Georgia for a really long time. I don't know I don't have any basis for this, but I assume so.
There's a song, Georgia. That's a nice song.
Probably. Is it America though?
I don't know. I mean, Michael Bublé sings the song, and he's re-sung it from loads of other people, so probably is in America.
Excellent. Do you have? Give me some colours that you reckon is in their flag.
Blue. I'm gonna say blue.
I reckon it's blue, white and red.
France.
No, in a different pan.
I'm saying blue and white. I'm definitely saying blue and white.
I reckon there's definitely red because there's red in everything, and I'm going to go with green because that seems like a Eastern European country colour. Excellent. Okay, have either of you got anything that you want to just randomly any thoughts you might have about a Georgian? How big is it? Do you reckon there's lots of people? How many people are in Georgia? How many millions?
I feel like
10?
I'm gonna say it's a smaller country only because, I mean, but you could say it for anything, but like obviously not hearing as much news about it, I just assume a smaller population for that kind of thing.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Alistair?
that was mine. I'll go small. Okay, so like yeah.
So let's
I
say
got
the
like 7
UK's.
million people in the whole country.
He's gone with 7. And Johnny?
Oh, I was just gonna say like the UK is like 70 million, so I'm gonna say 50 million. No, say 40. 40. Let's round it down.
40 million. I've just written 450 million. No. 40 million. Okay.
Did you write out the
excellent.
zeros instead of just putting 4 and an M?
No, I put 50 and then I put a 4 in front of it.
I was
Because
really
you said
hoping
4.
just like 0.00006. That's it.
And what country do you reckon Georgians are most friendly with? Like, this is a thing I like to see about in geography. Is like, for example, like the Finnish are very close to the Estonians because they have a similar language, and like they hate the I don't know, Russians. 'Cause
Was
they
that first
lose
bit
to
true
them
then,
at
or did
ski.
you just make that up?
It is actually true.
Cool.
I was going to say that'd be a round of. I'm not sure.
What? Name another country that you reckon they're friendies with.
I want to.
Neighbours don't mean friends. Neighbours might be angry, not friends. The French.
I want to say they border with some Middle Eastern country, just because I said Jordan at the start, so I'm gonna go down with that.
Yeah, Georgia and Jordan just get on really well just because they constantly confuse each other. And
Just-
the state of Georgia, they're all the three of them. They just get on really well.
They're just friends. Okay, Alistair, you going with the state of Georgia?
Sure, why not? Twinned with.
Okay, so I hope this has been an interesting thought process because this is fun. When you next come on, you're going to actually know about this country. Isn't that cool? You'll actively be able to have a good conversation with someone about where it is, the people, like the food, how old it is. You're gonna have knowledge that you didn't have before about people who exist. There are people who are born in Georgia who are like, I mean nothing to you, right?
What about this, these 3 British guys? I mean, like, come on, they know about me now, okay?
Well, I know it's stupid, but
this is actually really cool. It's taken us 19 episodes to get. No, yeah, 19. This is the episode 19, right? So yeah, I think. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
we'll be. Yeah.
So that's for us to actually pick something that we don't know anything about at all. The first half's going to be like 5
Well, I mean,
minutes.
it's always funny when someone mentions like a town. Like, for example, Johnny, I can mention Garstang, right? And no one outside of maybe that area would know about it, right? But
Actually,
to
I
you,
think
it's
you'll
where
find
you
it's the first fair trade town in the world. Thank you very much.
I know.
I mean, it's on the world stage.
Yeah,
It won Britain and Bloom quite a few years running on. I'm just saying, Freddie.
Jesus
I mean,
Christ, Fred, who
just because it's not in your little bubble, Freddie, doesn't mean it's not a global
Well,
player.
I'll have you know that as I've mentioned to you, but I don't know if Alistair knows this, that a girl who started working at my old job, she was from Garstang, which is a tiny town in the north of England. And when I said I knew where Garstang was, she said, "No, you don't." And I was like, "Yeah, I do. It's got that supermarket that you don't find anywhere else, really. What's that called? Booths." And I was like, "It's got booths."
It's the Waitrose
You
of the
said
North.
boots, and I was like,
Yeah, exactly. No, not boots. Booths. She's like, "Did you mean boots?" I was like, No, booths. It's big. It's kind of fancy. It's got. She actually wouldn't believe me that I hadn't Googled like her name or something to find out where she was from.
Too funny.
'Cause-
It's
That's very
for like, just so you know, like this is when you were working in Spain in a random place in Spain, no less. It's not even like a.
So it's not a major city or anything. Osuna, of 15,000 people in the middle of Andalusia.
so
Yeah.
what's the link with Garstang now? Is it,
She was from there as well.
No,
And Johnny's from
what's
there.
Oh, Johnny's actually. Oh, okay, fair.
So
As if I didn't know.
it's
That.
like,
To be fair, the other day
imagine
we were talking about this,
Go on.
I was just like, I don't even know where my mum is from. I was like, like you know, I spoke to my mum today, and I was like, oh, so where did you grow up, by the way? I don't even know the answer to that question.
Scunthorpe
Until,
is my
Like
mum's,
today,
which is just an incredible name for
mate,
any
tiny,
kind of
tiny
place.
temper, just not a fan, is he?
she never got to fly on a Concorde either. Yeah. Oh, excellent.
Where did your mum grow up, by the way, Alistair?
Oh,
Oh, come on now. Come on.
forgot already. I want to say like Harlow, but I don't think that's right.
As in
No,
Harlow.
I really need to listen better when I talk to my mum. Okay,
What's her accent? Is it South?
well, it is now, yeah, but
Oh, it is
no, I think
now.
I know it's like it's something Hampstead. Yeah,
Hampstead Heath?
no,
That's the only Hampstead I know.
yeah, I'm pretty sure it had the word Hampstead in it. I'm gonna go with that.
Nice.
Freddie, check that with you. Check your.
Where's your
where
mum
you are.
from?
Correct.
Oh, they see. This is also difficult because my parents were both army children, so they
Oh.
didn't. They don't really have true identity.
Is that why you think they initially bonded? Which is quite cute.
I do wonder that sometimes.
I mean, to be honest, it's got to be a huge thing. How much do you have in common with somebody who is also like army job?
Where
Because it's
you
like
from?
international students of like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, usually people tend to have a hub. Don't
That's
they?
fine. I'd say I didn't know that about your mum, Freddie, but I didn't know that about my own mum, so it's probably not that bad.
My mum listens to this
But funnily
podcast.
enough,
She's
I
gonna
did
tell me
know.
off.
I did know that your dad was an army child, because my dad was as well. What are the chances of that?
I don't know why. It just
That's
comes.
because they're brothers for anyone who's
Just like.
not to ignore.
Threw you off there. Yeah, I find it. Yeah, my mum might listen to this and tell me like, "Freddie, you idiot!" Like I grew up for a long time in XYZ, but actually I can't think right now where that would have been because she's born in Nigeria.
That's really cool.
Really,
Like-
I didn't know.
That's really cool. Do you know this thing of like for your passport is always that little bit of like a oh look where like Abby's passport says Dubai and it's always like a cool thing of like what icebreaker.
Well, wasn't your dad born in Germany for a bit? It doesn't count because he was born in like an army barracks, right? So
Yeah, exactly.
So that's so technically does your dad say Germany or does it not say Germany?
It says.
I just remember it because we were talking about during Brexit because he couldn't apply for a passport with that, a German passport.
Yeah, because it'd be funny.
You know, remember when everyone was trying to get like Irish passports and stuff based on the fact that their
Yeah.
grandma once went to Ireland or something.
Also, I think your mum won the country on your passport though, Nigeria. That's well cool.
It is cool.
Mm.
Anyway, just to recap before you fly off and learn about this country that we hadn't ever probably really thought about.
Come on this week. Okay, I know everything there is to know about Jordan.
No, damn it. I want you to basically general research, like like language, maybe a bit about food, a little bit of history. It's up to you, really. And ideally, some interesting news, maybe some sort of current event would be quite interesting to like tie it back to. I don't even know about their COVID situation. Maybe it's really good. Maybe it's really bad. But yeah, general knowledge about Georgia. I'm sure you guys will find some sort of interesting fact. There'll be videos and stuff online, won't there?
We get to bore loads of people in random conversation. Hey, did you know about the country Georgia by chance? No, I
Imagine
didn't. Don't
you
tell
meet
me more.
someone- If you meet someone from Georgia, like
In the future, that'd be
it's gonna be
crazy,
cool. They'd be like, "What?" You're like, "Yeah, I have a podcast. We featured your country."
I think you're famous now. No, I think it's really cool
Random
because
maths we did. So yeah,
because you know, like the thought of like the cliche like thing you see in the media will be like, you know, having Americans being like point on a map where literally anything is. I think it's more a case of their education rather than that the individual. But I do think that you're right of like Georgia's country I know nothing about, and really, why shouldn't you know more about the countries that you know and the people that you live in the same world with?
Yeah, it's cool.
touche,
Okay.
touche. No, I like that.
Well,
Amazing.
thank you very much for listening to the first half, brief as it was, and we'll be joining you after the break where we explain how much we really had no idea about Georgia. Hello, and welcome back after the break. You're here with Johnny, Alistair, and Freddie, and this week we're talking about Georgia. Not the state in America, not a random girl's name, but a country.
And not the country Jordan.
And not the country Jordan, no. I was going to say that then in Europe, actually, that's a debated issue.
It's contested, right?
That is actually contested. So, yes, we are going to be talking about Georgia. Have you guys had a little Google and watched any videos or anything on Georgia?
I didn't watch the video you sent me. I didn't have time, and I'm annoyed because now I feel both of you guys will be like repping off each other, like, look at all the stuff you know for this video watch, and I'm like, oh, you'll just use all Wikipedia.
Hey, no, it's good to get a variety of information, but
we definitely fell into that trap before. Where we just all watch the same video and then we're all just talking about it as if we know, and it makes for not the greatest podcast listening because it's like you guys all see everybody listens to this and also listen to it.
Yeah, then the audience.
Remember the time when he said that thing about that? Yeah, that's funny, right?
Oh,
yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's great. Rinse and repeat for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Well, I have to ask Jonathan, as our local dictionary expert, what is the definition, Jonathan?
This is the first thing I thought. Like, wait a second, we're going to have what's going to be happening in definition corner?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
No, I mean the definition would be.
I guess it would be a country. I actually fully didn't look up the definition of Georgia.
Well, you have a quick Google because I was just going to say it's interesting that there are a few countries around the world, being Russia, Nicaragua, Venezuela, and Nauru. I think I'm saying that right. These countries recognize two parts of Georgia as being their own countries.
So, yeah, it's sort of like USSR legacy, right? And it's all quite
very strange.
Quite
very
messy.
strange.
But yeah.
Okay, guys, here we go.
That's the whole thing with Taiwan, right? That's the whole like, who actually I think it's like the Vatican City and maybe one other place recognizes Taiwan as its own place.
That's mad.
Whereas I think is that right? Is that wrong actually? But basically, what was it? I can't remember. But basically, it's saying like, everyone's just like, yeah, it's China. We can say it if you want. You know, that's fine because. So obviously, China's very keen to say Taiwan is China.
Borders are all in our heads, eh? Go on then, Johnny.
Well, the funny thing is, I'm on dictionary.com, and for some reason, it doesn't feel as official as any of the other dictionaries that you usually find. Although it's got dictionary.com, like they bought that. So, Georgia, noun, a republic in Northwest Asia. It says Northwest Asia as well.
Whoa.
On the Black Sea, an independent kingdom during the Middle Ages. It was divided by Turkey and Persia in 1555, became part of Russia in 1918, and a separate Soviet republic in 1936. Its independence was recognised internationally in 1992. It is rich in minerals and has hydroelectric resources. Official language, Georgian. Religion, believes are mainly Christian or Muslim. Currency, Lari. Capital, Tbilisi. I don't know how to pronounce that. Population 4.5 million. Area 69,000 square kilometres or 26,000 square miles. The other one's a state. Yes. That's the noun of Georgia.
The noun of Georgia, not the person. Well, perfect. That's
I was going to say, were you sure that's not the American one because it was different? There was a different population than the one at the top, and I was actually waiting to say a lot about the fact
West
that I don't think the American one is in Northwest Asia, as far as I'm aware. I have no geography myself. But.
Well, okay, just to start off, I found a couple of interesting facts. Well, actually, I found a crap ton of interesting facts. But one of them is that really, they're called the Kartvelian people, and they call Georgia Sakartvelo. That nothing at all to do with the word Georgia. And yes, where Georgia comes from is contested by a bunch of people. Like, a lot of scholars says that it's land of the wolves. Someone else says because it's like St. George. Someone else, the Greeks say something else. Like, yeah, all sorts of different heritages, and yet they call themselves nothing to do with that.
Well, yeah, because that's the thing of
because countries have their own names, right? But we like in any language you just sort of decide what you're going to call it, and then like that's kind of weird. Like, what if everyone's country we just had to learn like the actual name for they call it for themselves?
Well,
Yeah, I just don't see why we didn't do that.
Interestingly,
pronunciation.
Lithuania in 2018 changed how they say Georgia to be more respectful, or something to do with an agreement. And again, it's a completely different word. I actually didn't write it down, but it's like not even Sakartvelo, it's something else.
So
I guess
so
maybe
the
it's
language
like everyone
is
would get such bad pronunciations for everyone who just annoy the people in the countries for too many.
yeah, that's true.
I don't
It's
know.
like, so the language is Georgian and Abkhazian, which is so like learning a bit about it. Of like, what's the country which has is it Spain, which is split up a little bit, and they're trying to come independent, a little part of it.
Catalonia, I think.
I mean, lots of
Yeah,
parts
Catalonia.
of many countries want to be independent, to be fair. But yeah.
Yeah, so I feel there's a lot of that going on, which I didn't try to delve too much into because I feel you have to learn a lot of background for a little fact. Yeah, Scotland, oh yeah. But yeah, so the main thing was Georgian. So do you know? Because I don't know, I'm asking you guys. Do you know what they call it in Georgia? Because obviously it could be like
Yeah,
we
I
call
just
it
said
England
it-
in English, but it's like
That's
no.
what
the
using-
language. Oh no,
in the Georgian language, what
the
they call their
language
country.
is mad though. It's like completely independent. It has no roots in any other language that we know
God,
about.
that's so exciting.
It's
There's like 12 sounds that are just completely, like
yeah.
okay,
exactly.
cool.
And
That's
3
the noise that came out
alphabets.
of your mouth. I don't even know how you do any of those. Yeah.
Oh wow. Are they driving the
They've
right side of the
gone-
road, by the
they've
way?
gone
The
Great,
currency
thanks.
Georgian
Thanks for
lari, which is 1 Georgian lari is to 21 pence to the Great British pound, and that's Oz May 11.
Okay, it's about a fifth.
Religion 88% Christian, and I was kind of right. 83.4% of the Christians are Georgian Orthodoxy. So
Yes.
I said about Orthodox Christians. I think it's a Catholic. 11% Islam, and the capital is Tbilisi.
Yeah.
Tbilisi, I
Yeah.
think, isn't it?
Spelled
And as a-
TBLISI, but I don't know how you say it.
Yeah. And of 2017,
Tbilisi.
it's the 7th safest country in the world. Although, funnily, because literally like a decade before that, there was which we can go into later, was a war again with Russia, which was just mad. It borders Turkey, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Russia. There we go. Those are the main go-to facts.
Alistair, is there anything you'd like to mention? We've had a lot about the physical geography. I don't know if you got something about culture or.
Yeah, there's quite stuff. The food stuff. So obviously, there's a lot of sort of meat and cheese and things of that nature.
A lot of cheese and wine.
A lot of cheese. Yeah, they do. And the wine is meant to be really rather good, apparently.
One of the oldest wine-producing countries in the world. They can date their wine back to 300 BC.
Because I don't know, it's always amazing how much they can find from a little pot. But I suppose actually, how much a country drinks wine is probably something that you can find some sort of old ceramic pot. But, oh yeah, they totally drank wine. Whereas normally, historians find that and then reel off a whole load of facts about a country. Right? It's just you think, okay, sure. Yeah, the thing about its name was kind of with the fact that they just kind of went with, no real. It's very much contested. The actual geography of it itself is very, very rocky. It's kind of they've got a lot of rocks, a lot of old things.
They do love the rocks. It's got interesting geography because the north of it, north and south, are both about basically mountain borders. So the borders from the north of those mountains stop the crazy cold from Russia, and the mountains of the south stop the crazy hot from Turkey and Azerbaijan. So they've actually got a really nice climate between two mountain peaks.
That's so cool.
It's absolutely stunning. I was looking at it and I was like, this is insane. They have so much climbing and mountains and incredibly
they have this church
fertile
that you
land.
can only get to by climbing, and they've got all this really cool and they have what was it? They have loads of tourists from Turkey coming over to gamble because gambling is illegal in Turkey.
Their partying seems awesome, Johnny. I think you'd really enjoy their leaping music. They love to leap. In their
I
dancing.
do like that.
So I
That's
think
really fun.
Team Trips Georgia.
Oh man. Oh yeah, you said it before, didn't you? That their country is called Sakartvelo in their own language. How much I may be butchering that.
No, that's fair enough.
Spot on, mate.
And
Spot on.
their actual the alphabet looks so cool. And again, do you know when you see something which doesn't look like it's based on anything? It's just squiggles. Well, I mean, all writing is squiggles, but you know what I mean. But do you when it's there's no similarities really? It's like looking at Arabic, but just a bit more pretty, a bit like Korean.
I asked you a few questions in the first half. The flag. Let's see. Alistair said blue, white, red. Johnny said blue and red. Did you have a look at their flag? Either of you?
Yes. It's red and
So
white.
this is what's interesting about it. Surely the St George thing would come into that a little, or there'll be some connection there. St George, Georgia thing, because their flag is literally. I know quite a lot of places have this, but it's like the St George's cross with 4 extra crosses in it, which I'm sure is a flag of something
Yes.
similar to
George.
in other countries.
But this flag that they have is only current. Well, okay, let's see. It's in its current state. It's only like 5 years old or something. They've had a crazy amount of flags.
Well, that would be.
Yeah.
That would describe it.
Indecisive.
They've had loads of different flags, including ones with black in them, like full on big black blocks, kind of noir. But this one that they've got now is based on a previous kind of state of Georgia within the territory of Georgia that they had. Not state of Georgia like America, but like,
I'm looking at flags of Georgia, and one of the first things was, do you like the what's the racist American flag, effectively?
The
Confederate flag.
oh, yeah. It is difficult to look up stuff from Georgia and not to be bombarded by American crap. Did you? Oh yes. So let's see. We've also got that. You had a little look at the language. The number of people we had. As I said, 7 million, which is pretty close. Johnny said 450. The interesting thing was that recently they lost 1 million people due to migration, and they only have like 5 anyway.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a fifth of their whole population left. But it's such a cool country looking. Like, it does, honestly, I really now want to go after having a little look.
So yeah, it's quite difficult to look up stuff about a country and not also be bombarded with touristy come to Georgia because of this, so it's like, yeah. I mean, to be fair, doing this podcast, I think has confused any advert algorithm thing that thought it knew me before I did this podcast. Now it's got 18 weeks worth of just completely bizarre searches.
Would you like to visit Georgia, but also a prison, but also
looking at aliens?
Yeah.
I really delved into the history a bit more. Like, one thing, the first thing I looked up, I was thinking to look in any country, like conspiracy theories. I mean, like, because America is like packed, brimming full of conspiracy theories, and it's just like mad. And I know the UK has, like, Diana, was she murdered, kind of thing. Australia, I think one of the prime ministers randomly went missing once, and they don't really know where he went.
Yeah,
and like, so there's conspiracy around it. So, but there's like not a huge, other countries. There's not a massive amount, whereas America has really got the cojones for conspiracies. But one thing, which is more of a plot, which is actually like a real thing.
This tying
like
back to Georgia, the country.
It is 100%.
Okay.
1832, which I think it's like Guy Fawkes for the UK, but also a bit like the Red Wedding in Game of Thrones. So it's Georgian plot. There was the Bagratoni dynasty, which is a royal dynasty. I don't know what we say. Reigned in Georgia from the Middle Ages until the early 19th century, being among the oldest extant Christian ruling dynasties in the world. So again, do you know, like, Georgia's dropping like world facts? Do you know, like, they had something going on which is like the longest in the world?
Yeah, they were the first, weren't they? That's crazy.
Yeah, and Russia took control. So new word I learned is, well, I think I knew the word, but I didn't know what it meant. It was annexed. So really, they started just taking, you know, like the country's like, we're just gonna put our borders a little bit further forward. In 1801. And they broke this treaty. And 1813, Russia controlled. Well, they acknowledged that Russia controlled, like, Georgia effectively, and they sent the royals off to random provinces in Russia. And then the way it's written as well was clearly somebody who was on board with Georgia for it. And it was like Prince Akropov of Georgia. He wasn't happy about this, so he went to like Moscow and St. Petersburg, and he was like saying like, "Come on, guys, get the patriotic Georgia. We're gonna get it back," kind of thing. And the plan. So this was the plan, which I think is just so cool. I was like, the plan was to invite the Russian commander-in-chief in Georgia to the capital, and the other members of the administration. They have a grand ball in Tbilisi, and at a given signal, they would all just be assassinated, just in one fell swoop. And then it was like,
what?
Oh my days, that's just so cool. The idea of being like, okay, well, we're going to get all the Russians, and then we're just going to kill them all. We're going to get one place and kill them. And then there's this one, I think there's like a pass they were going to, so obviously Russian reinforcements have come in, but there's like, because it's all mountainous regions, they're just going to take control of this one, like, what was it called? Can't find the name. But this pass they're going to take control of, so Russia wouldn't really be able to do anything and just take out like massive thing. And I think it would have been so cool. Imagine that history happening. Unfortunately, it was meant to be in November. Then it was postponed to December, and then postponed again. And then somebody in early December revealed it to some of the Russian people.
Wait,
and then
it didn't even happen.
It didn't happen.
I was so ready
No,
for
and I'm
that.
like, come on, it would have been so cool. And that's the way that was written was really, you were like, I want this to happen right now. Yeah, and they were sentenced to death. The 10 people who were found of like conspiring, but then they ended up just getting deported. Not deported, but like they were, because they were like aristocrats and like ex-royalty. They're like, right, we'll just send you off to random parts of Russia.
Yeah.
But unsuccessful. But apparently it led to the national liberation eventually. You know, that kind of thing set the ball rolling. Which is, yeah, but Russia and Georgia have not had good things going. And
No.
I'll carry on for the next thing unless anyone else has anything else to briefly
I'm
suggest.
really interested. I'd like to read this later as well.
So,
Go on.
2008, I don't know, like, where was I in 2008? Why didn't I know about this? Is the Russo-Georgian War. There was 2008. It's considered the first European war of the 21st century. August 2008, for 12 days, they had a war, Russia and Georgia. And, like, why did I not know about this? It first started with... So I think, effectively, Russia was like, they started doing the same thing again. They're like, well, just realise that Georgia had a really good military advantage in a certain area. And I think one of the things they started doing was like giving out Russian passports to people in an area. So imagine if someone is just like, say, France just starts giving French passports to people in Devon, being like, yeah, here you go, you're just now citizens, there you go, kind of thing. You're like, and then Georgia's like, hey guys, what are you doing, man? Don't do that. And yeah, and it's apparently it's the first war in history in which cyber warfare coincided with military action. And yeah, one of the first attacks was an IED, which hit Georgian police lorry, and then snipers retaliated, and they had big like blockades and stuff like that, and it's just like mad. So 65 to 67 Russians died, 169 Georgians died, 283 wounded Russians, 947 wounded Georgians, 12 prisoner of war of the Russians, and 39 prisoner of war of the Georgian, and that was all. Obviously, they're all like actual like servicemen. It's funny as well when the stats of like for the civilian casualties, but there's at least 365 civilian casualties, which I kind of think is funny that they have to say Russia said this, but we know it's at least this. 255 wounded, and then for Georgia, 224 civilian deaths, 547 injured, and it's just mad. That was huge. Apparently, it displaced 192,000 people, and as of 2014, 20,272 people were still homeless effectively, and they were mostly ethnic Georgians, and it's like.
Wow.
It's huge. Dave
that's
Miliband was like
to do with this whole like a million people leaving. Like, that sounds like
you-
a reason to leave
you
a
know
country if you're going to.
yeah. Dave Miliband, he said he deplored it, and I'm like, okay. Yeah, so that was the UK said we deplore this. America, George Bush at the time nearly got involved, but then was like, I don't really want to go to war with Russia, so instead they sent military humanitarian aid to Georgia. That's the biggest thing of like Russia kind of did this, and everyone was kind of like, we don't really want to get in a big war with Russia, so we're just going to say please stop, but we're not going to do anything about it. And like, he's like, why don't you get involved? But at the same time, you realise that no one wants a world war, and that's how they get started. Of like,
Man, yeah.
But then, like, do you just let countries get taken over because you're afraid to start something in liberty and everything like that?
I mean,
Yeah, mad.
Russia and China are doing that right now. They're-
Again, it's like we always want to have good and bad guys, right? But it's just not that simple. So I don't know.
I know, and the
It's
fact
true.
of like nearby of this happened, a war happened in Europe, and other countries like, yeah, please stop, but like we really don't want to do anything because we don't want to open the box,
Yeah. I
Pandora's
wonder how.
box of.
I mean, geographically, I wonder how isolated Georgia feels, just because it is so east. Like I didn't realize until I was looking up. Like it is literally past Turkey. Like no wonder people think it's in Asia, but it has both sides to it. It has Asian and it has European. So I wonder if that kind of isolates it. If there was further conflict, like
And the Middle East as well, isn't it?
on the Middle East, yeah, exactly.
Well, I don't know what it counts as like continent-wise, but
I don't think the Middle East counts as a continent.
well, no, but do you know like the idea of like you've got Asia, Turkey, Russia, that kind of whatever. So yeah, out of the way, aren't you?
Yeah, it is fascinating, and thank you so much for actually looking up That I had no idea. I focus too much on like the kind of the cultural stuff, not
Well,
like
definitely. Well, I
news.
realized I didn't focus at all. But I'm sure there's more stuff to the war than what I said. But obviously, there's like with any war, there's like things that started it, starting in 1901 of like Russia and Georgia. So obviously, tense. But yeah.
Wow. Oh, that was awesome. Thank you. Alistair, have you got anything that you wanted to add? Any research?
That is a high bar. That's a high bar. Not nothing that deep actually. I can't admit that. I did sort of like, I don't know, the whole history of the Soviet Union. I think is actually really quite interesting. I realize I don't actually know much about that.
Well,
And
maybe we should touch on that on another.
we
on
should
the
we
future.
probably get that.
So
could be a
what did
little-
you know
a
of it?
feature.
Because I saw a little bit about Soviet Russia, but I didn't really. I think 1991 it disbanded. I don't know.
Well, I believe
Georgia.
Stalin is a native
Stalin
Georgian. I believe.
is from
So, yeah.
Georgia. Yes, that
He's
was.
actually from Georgia, so that was like a big thing. I know that Rasputin was the greatest love machine in Russia. I believe.
Rah rah
Pretty sure.
Rasputin. Yes. Yes.
But, Bone Yum is just that's my go-to source of joke. But obviously the history of the USSR I think is I feel like it's one of those things that you just see so much of in movies, and it's such a sort of like big time.
Well,
Event.
if
Such a world-changing
if
event, and it
European
could
films
have been so much more important.
run out of baddies, they're like, we need baddies again. Who should we have? Well, you've got a choice of people who are from Asia-ish and or Russians. It's like, oh, okay.
But the
Go
Taken
get it.
movies, it's like, yeah, we don't. I don't
Yeah,
know. But I mean, in terms of obviously historical buffs, which I would not consider myself one at all, as you can probably tell, we can talk about it for a very, very long time. I'm sure it's a huge topic to delve into. But yeah, I just it's the sort of the legacy that like Freddie was saying about those kind of the disputed areas and the territories, which countries can just kind of it's almost like, well, this is because all like I say, all the borders are just man-made, so it's just kind of
Well, just to bring it back to Georgia, like they have these different states that have like basically different languages. People in them definitely define themselves in certain ways. Some of those states cross over each other in weird ways. Like I could barely get a grasp of what makes a Georgian. If you have
That was part of the war, that they had like part of Georgia wanted to be separate from another part of Georgia, and Russia was kind of helping along with it, and part of the initial attack was part of Georgia attacking. I mean, I don't want to botch this, but it's kind of, there's loads of different names, and I'm trying to follow which name is what part. Is that part of South Russia, or is that part of North Georgia, which is trying to be separate and kind of, if you know what I mean. So I think Russia's so big as well that it kind of seemed like part of Russia got involved in a war, but clearly not all of Russia, because Russia is colossal. It's so big.
That's true.
It's really,
it's just mental.
it feels
thought about
it's the biggest country because no one could be asked claiming it.
Well, I guess they claimed it, right? It's kind of. Well,
So everyone's in their own little areas, and then it was like, right, so there's just huge areas, and then Russia was like, yeah, I'm going to take that. Also, Putin was a part of the reason why the war started, I think, because they didn't like him.
Well, thank you guys for looking up some fun stuff about a country that we didn't even know what the flag was. We didn't know where it was. We didn't know what the people
how
were
little
called.
we knew about it before, and it was.
Yeah. The only
And the language was Georgian. I think we have touched on that, but yeah, the language is Georgian.
Yeah.
and
It's actually
totally
Georgian,
unique.
which was.
Other fun facts is that the language doesn't have the F sound. They have the deepest cave in the world. They have some cool pizza things that look delicious with cheese and eggs and stuff. And they have had a woman as a king, which I thought was cool.
That is very cool.
I think there's a word for that.
No. It was a woman as a king. That's the specifics.
Fair.
It's
Why?
not. She was not a queen.
What was the distinction there? Do you...
It was touched upon. Is there anything else that you had before we wrap up this beautifully houred video?
No, I think that's everything. I mean, like, I'm just really happy that, do you like when you, because it's a small country that a lot of, I guess, not a lot of people haven't heard of, but like, no, we haven't heard of necessarily, of so much has gone in, and it's kind of like, I guess with all news, like, you focus on stuff which relates to you, but it's still like, man, huge stuff happens everywhere, and, I guess it's just being more aware of it, isn't it?
Yeah, but also, I mean, just to agree with you on that, is that, like, it's difficult to empathize with something that means nothing to you, because you like I've never met a Georgian that I know of, and I've never really had any contact with this part of the world, so it's hard to kind of empathize. And now I definitely would if I heard some news that Georgia, I'm like, I'm here, I'm listening, listening.
I relate to it.
Also, with the language, it's one of those things of being like to see. I guess with anything of like, you know, somebody, be it Chinese or Arabic, things like that, of like speaking that language plus English, whereas like it's completely different form of language, whereas the origins are completely separate. It's just more impressive as well for having two languages, because it's not like, oh, you can band together, you know, like, you know, all the like European usual languages. They're all slightly stemmed, so there's a bit of familiarity. Say that again.
Indo-European, all of our languages that the Eastern ones, that Western
have the same alphabet.
The Western ones. No, well, that's Romance. That's slightly different. But Indo-European languages is like all the ones that we know about, inverted commas, because we're like very European. And it's just like you get random ones like Basque and clearly Georgian that are just like, we're nothing to do with you guys. Anyway, thank you very much for joining us for the episode on Georgia. I hope you guys have learned something. I definitely have. And I'll be looking forward. Next topic next week. Catch that.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode on Georgia, the country not the state. We hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have any suggestions of future topics, please send them over to noideayetpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.